TikTok pushes very heavily that the catchphrase that they always use is make TikToks, not ads.
You're listening to the Keep Optimizing podcast to increase your traffic, improve your conversion rates, and grow your profits.
Hello and welcome. I'm Chloe Thomas, the host of this e-commerce marketing focused podcast. If you're not familiar with the format, well, each month we focus on a different marketing method, could be email or SEO or TikTok. And each week I interview a different expert to explore the latest advice on making it work for you. This month we are doing TikTok. 5 whole episodes about TikTok and e-commerce specifically. Our first episode, we're kind of diving into a case study of how one retailer has been using the organic side of TikTok to drive sales for their business. We then have done 2 episodes on TikTok Shop, one looking at the ops side, then the second one looking at how you grow your sales on TikTok Shop. And then this episode is all about ads. But we're not just doing what you should be doing with TikTok ads. There's plenty of that coming up towards the end of the episode. But first off, because my guest has visibility within their agency across multiple e-commerce brands who are spending money with them on Pinterest, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, I thought it'd be crazy not to ask him where TikTok is sitting in the overall ad space at the moment. Where should your budget be being spent? Where are the returns? How does it stack up against the others? We're going to start off by talking about all of that. And then, of course, I'm going to pick his brains for if you are doing TikTok ads and you feel you should be doing TikTok ads at the moment, what you should be doing. So that's what we're going to be exploring in this episode. Do make sure you listen right to the end, because at the end of the interview, he's sharing his quick fire insider tips to help you maximize the performance of TikTok, including an amazingly well-researched crystal ball answer where he's giving us kind of like a tick list of things you need to keep an eye on that are coming up on TikTok very soon. So you need that, if nothing else, in this episode. And then I will share my take on it all and give you some more free ways we can help you to improve your TikTok even more. So stay tuned to the end. So you're thinking about launching on TikTok Shop, but you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the work required to be successful on the platform, right? Well, don't worry, because Unsociable are going to make it easy for you to grow your following, engagement, and most importantly, sales on TikTok. Unsociable are an official premier TikTok Shop partner, and they make it so easy to launch your brand on TikTok and get sales fast. With proven commercial traction and 64 million client views so far this year, Unsociable provides brands with everything you need for a successful TikTok Shop launch. Everything from setup to ads and live streaming. Now, you can book a free, no-obligation TikTok consultation with their founder, Ben Muir, via keepopt.com/unsociable. There's limited availability, so book now at keepopt.com/unsociable for your free, no-obligation TikTok consultation with Ben. Do you have a problem only an awesome piece of e-commerce tech can solve? Is your e-commerce tech stack not quite fit for purpose anymore? Then why not explore the latest technology on offer at e-commerce tech? We are going through a hugely changing time in the tech landscape at the moment, and if you want to be bringing the best results you can in your business, then you need to be on top of what's going on in the tech space. To find out that and much more, head to keepopt.com/tech. That's keepopt.com/TECH. keepopt.com/tech to find all the best tools for your e-commerce store. In this episode, I'm chatting with TikTok expert Sam Thompsett. Sam is head of paid social at Genie Goals, who do results-driven marketing for e-commerce brands. And Sam's been leading their TikTok ads work. Hello, Sam.
Hiya, how are you?
I'm good. Great to have you on the show. How did you end up working on TikTok? What's been your TikTok journey?
I first got involved in digital marketing about 7 years ago when I joined Genie Goals. So I've always worked at Genie Goals, who are a digital marketing agency, and we do PPC affiliates and paid social. I joined the team as on the PPC side, and I've worked my way up the company. I made a transition across to paid social a couple of years ago. And in terms of TikTok specifically. So we run 3 core channels on paid social. So we do Meta, TikTok, and Pinterest. And TikTok for us has become a much bigger paid focus over the last couple of years, mainly driven by that organic growth that TikTok has seen. So TikTok has been the fastest growing app for the past 3 years. You can't really get away from it. It's been a need of the agency for us to offer a paid offering, I guess.
So I would guess one of the reasons that the TikTok growth is happening is because there's an awful lot of hype about TikTok around, of which we are guilty here because we're doing TikTok for a whole month. So we're kind of contributing to that noise, which can often become a bit of a distraction and not necessarily line up to the realities of it. So Sam, would you be up for talking a bit about how, as you're in that unique position of seeing across multiple brands, Meta, Pinterest, and TikTok, how you're seeing it kind of play out in the bigger ads piece? Would you be up for sharing a bit of that with us?
Yeah, definitely. So I think TikTok's real growth came around 2020. That's where it really started to pick up and when people start to stand up and take notice. From a paid perspective, it's been more of a focus for us in 2023, the back end of 2022. It was driven by a lot of factors. Number one being that organic growth that TikTok has seen. It's difficult to say exactly why TikTok has grown. I guess the fundamental reason is that its creative offering is completely different to anything else that you would get on a social media platform. Its audience is young, so I think the stat is around 50% of its demographic is under 30, and that demographic clearly just wanted something a bit more, organic out of its content, something a little bit more accessible. So yeah, we saw that organic growth from TikTok itself. The other thing which you have to comment on is the other social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, whilst TikTok was flourishing, platforms, especially Facebook, was one that was declining. Like if you speak to many people these days, a lot of people have deactivated their Facebook accounts, or they rarely use it. It's not really a go-to social media platform. People are using lots of different platforms instead. So Reddit, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram is still a very popular platform, especially for young people. So whilst Facebook has seen a decline in growth, especially along populations, and TikTok has captured that demand, Instagram is still a popular platform. But I'd say TikTok and its growth has come about. Number one, TikTok is offering something completely different, and number two, those other social media platforms are failing to innovate. Especially Facebook have been mimicking all of the content that works well on different social media platforms. So it's those two factors.
So Sam, with all this kind of noise and things going on between those social media platforms, obviously you're working with brands who are doing ads across Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. What are you seeing as being I hate a benchmark, but a rough rule of thumb in terms of what percentage of the ad spend people are using on TikTok effectively, not just for the sake of it, but a reasonable rule of thumb across it all? Are we spending 50% on Facebook, 20% on TikTok, 30% on Google ads, or what's it looking like from what you're seeing?
I think that is the question that I probably get asked the most. If you were to go onto your LinkedIn feed, or if you're generally interested in paid social right now, it can be difficult to escape that noise around you should be moving all of your Meta budget onto TikTok because Meta's a dying platform. For us, the reality is that just isn't the case at the moment. 2023 for us was, when we started our yearly planning at the start of the year, we thought this would be the year where it really took off from a paid perspective. That hasn't necessarily happened. At the moment, TikTok is a platform that we have a couple of clients that are on there as BAU, so business as usual, that are running activity regularly. For a lot of our other clients, our recommendation really is that you need to be testing it. The reason for that, I think, is that 2023 and 2022 has been a difficult financial year, and Pinterest and TikTok especially, is definitely an awareness platform. So it's not one that you're guaranteed to get a return from. So when we say that to clients or we're pitching for TikTok, that can sometimes, create a bit of hesitation. You don't really want to move budget off an established platform like Meta, where you are getting a return, onto a platform like TikTok, where it doesn't stack up in terms of direct sales at the moment. There's definitely a focus from TikTok themselves to make it a much more e-com focused platform. But we like to manage our clients' budget as if it's our own. And sure, we could charge our clients more money at like a retainer fee for running TikTok activity, but we don't really make that recommendation unless they're in a place where Meta is fully maximized and we're at a point where we can test and we can move budget effectively into TikTok. Our recommendation at the moment is that if you have the budget, you should be testing it just to see how it does for your brand. But I wouldn't be going anywhere over 10 to 20% of your budget, and it would need to really be awareness focused budget. So a testing pot that you don't really mind if you don't get a return. It's definitely, I think you could fall into it could be a bit of a pitfall if you don't test it now, because if you do test it and you have the flexibility to test it now, you're going to get a lot of learnings a lot quicker than other brands. And if a lot of other brands are hesitant to move their budget across, you're going to get all of the stuff that you need to work very effectively on TikTok before those competitors. So I would say test it right now, but don't put 50% of your paid social budget behind it, because you're just not going to see that return. And a lot of brands right now, when everything is a little bit of a struggle, you need to see a return on your ad spend.
Got you. So very much an awareness driving platform, because the attribution side of it and the use of it is not quite stacking up for the own site sales at the moment. And we're talking get your Meta optimized fully first and maximize your budgets over there, and then maybe 10, maybe 20% to start learning the platform, start building the recognition, and be ready for when the greater sales volume kicks in. Would that be a fair summary, Sam?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's directly the attribution of the platform. I think the consideration is that Meta's been around for a very long time and paid has been around on the platform for a very long time, and that offering has changed. It changes monthly and it's evolved over a number of years, and it's evolved in a way that it can effectively drive sales. TikTok just isn't there right now. It could be that the offering is slightly different. Effectively, you can do very, very similar things on TikTok as you can do on Meta. So a lot of people think that Meta and TikTok and Pinterest, like, you're going into wildly different platforms, but the reality is that the setup is very similar from a technical setup perspective, and also all of the ad creative and ad formats. But for whatever reason, perhaps because they're not developed enough to tailor to that TikTok audience, so what I would class as lower funnel driving ads, such as dynamic carousels and just general dynamic product ads, they just don't seem to work quite as well on TikTok right now. So it could be the offering is not quite there. It could also be that people just use TikTok for a different thing than they do on Meta. They're more in a headspace of being entertained. I think if you go on Meta or Instagram right now, you're not really necessarily looking for, especially on Facebook, you're not necessarily looking for something very specific. You're more in the mindset of, if you see an ad, I think you're more likely to pay attention to it on Meta than you are on TikTok. TikTok is fast moving. People just don't generally want to see ads there. They want to be entertained. They want to watch things that they are interested in, rather than just scrolling through a news feed with no real purpose.
Okay, so let's zone in on the TikTok ad side of things now. With the things you're currently doing for brands and merchants, for anyone who's listening right now who maybe they're already up and running on TikTok ads and they're wondering what their next thing they do should be, or they're wondering if they've got the right things in place, or maybe they're thinking they're about to start off with it, what are the key things you're seeing that are crucial for driving some success on there at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm going in with the assumption that Meta's scaled up. That's all good. Like that, you've been learning and you know what works on that platform. The number one thing I would be looking at is, before jumping into TikTok, is your audience there? Are you going after the right demographic? Because the TikTok demographic is much younger. If you're pushing products that are more suitable for an older demographic, I think that would be the first question that I'd ask, because if it's not there, then don't jump on the hype. Reserve the budget and put it into a different channel. Number two would be coming back to that KPI. Does it align with your overall marketing objective? If you don't get any return on ad spend on that platform, is that going to be a problem for your stakeholders that you're managing internally? The third one, and that's when we start to talk about TikTok specifically, like I said earlier, the fundamentals are really quite similar. So if you're established on Meta and you can fulfill all those creative requirements, it's about looking at that from a TikTok perspective. So we would never really recommend that our client get started on a paid social platform unless they have an organic presence. It just builds that brand trust. So the number one thing I would be saying before starting paid is, number one, are you nailing it organic? Because if you click through to a profile and there's nothing there, that just reduces confidence in the brand, and it really needs to be there. You can do it without organic, but we would generally say don't do it. The other real benefit of having organic set up is that you get those learnings of what does and doesn't work from a TikTok creative perspective. There's a less of a difference between a paid ad and an organic post on TikTok. TikTok pushes very heavily that the catchphrase that they always use is make TikToks, not ads. I think that is true and it isn't true in some ways, but you can get lots of learnings from those organic posts, and you'll be able to see what type of content is working for your audience. And that will really help when you are putting the fundamentals and the foundations in place of what you need to get started on paid. So if there's one thing brands need to get right on TikTok, it's the creative. That organic content's super useful. I say the creative just because a TikTok video is instantly recognizable, and it is very different from what brands are used to producing. They're used to producing very polished, very sales-focused ads, and the reality is that it just doesn't work on TikTok. So you can't transfer meta ads onto TikTok and expect any results. You need to be there with an organic strategy. You need to be producing content that is suitable to that TikTok audience. So that's absolutely where I would start. I'd say the fundamentals around audience targeting, the technical setup of the account is it will be fine, and it shouldn't be a problem if you've been managing meta ads, but you need to nail the creative.
And what tips would you have for people who are looking to nail the creative?
I think the problem with TikTok is brands sometimes get overwhelmed with getting to the point where they're at a stage where they need to produce creative. They think it's going to need to be really different, but it can also it can still follow a formula. So I said earlier around make TikToks, not ads. That is what TikTok push a lot. But I would say that you do need to follow a formula, and you do need to make an ad. It still needs to be a sales-focused ad. But if I was in a position where I was about to launch a brand on TikTok, I would be thinking about, I think it can be easy to just, launch with whatever content you have. But if we were about to launch on TikTok, I would want the brand to sit down and just think about what kind of challenges does my product or brand solve? Because that's the kind of content that can work very well effectively on TikTok. Like, how are you providing value to your audience? What's going to captivate that audience on TikTok? So we work with a lot of fashion clients. And I think that can sometimes be a bit of a difficult niche on TikTok, because it's not necessarily that there's going to be a lot of how could I create X videos that you could create off the back of it. So I'd say when you're thinking around providing value, something that can work well is just creating content that you're not going to get on other social media platforms, and giving them insight into the brand, behind the scenes, photo shoots, interviews with brand owners, utilizing TikTok not just as a method of pushing out paid ads, but actually providing more value to your audience and engaging them a little bit more on the ethos of the brand and what the brand stands for. I would ask the brand, what does your brand solve? List down as many ideas as possible and try and find as many creative themes that link back to that original question. So there's that side of it. The second thing would be to look at TikTok slightly differently to how you might look at other platforms from how you're pushing out your brand message. So typical brand and paid social messaging, it all comes from the brand. A brand knows what it wants to push to its audience. It sets up its ads and it pushes it out there. The difference on TikTok is it's a very community-centric audience. What works fantastically well on TikTok is partnering with content creators and influencers. So macro influencers, you should have a wide span of influencers that you could potentially partner with and get them to produce content for you, because that kind of content just sees a lot, so much better click-through rates and so much better engagement.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Loads of great stuff there, everyone, for you to get stuck into, if and only if now is the time for you to be doing those TikTok ads. Sam, it's been great picking your brains about all of that. Listeners, remember, stay tuned right to the end so you don't miss out on Sam's insider tips on TikTok and my suggestions for more free resources to help you improve things even further in your business. So, you're thinking about launching on TikTok Shop, but you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the work required to be successful on the platform, right? Well, don't worry, because Unsociable are going to make it easy for you to grow your following, engagement, and most importantly, sales on TikTok. Unsociable are an official premier TikTok Shop partner, and they make it so easy to launch your brand on TikTok and get sales fast. With proven commercial traction and 64 million client views so far this year, Unsociable provides brands with everything you need for a successful TikTok Shop launch. Everything from setup to ads and live streaming. Now, you can book a free, no-obligation TikTok consultation with their founder, Ben Muir, via keepopt.com/unsociable. There's limited availability, so book now at keepopt.com/unsociable for your free, no-obligation TikTok consultation with Ben. Do you have a problem only an awesome piece of e-commerce tech can solve? Is your e-commerce tech stack not quite fit for purpose anymore? Then why not explore the latest technology on offer at e-commerce tech? We are going through a hugely changing time in the tech landscape at the moment, and if you want to be bringing the best results you can in your business, then you need to be on top of what's going on in the tech space. To find out that and much more, head to keepopt.com/tech. That's keepopt.com/TECH. keepopt.com/tech to find all the best tools for your e-commerce store. Okay, Sam, so far we've gone deep into TikTok ads. Now you get to wow us with your insider knowledge about the whole of TikTok. So for the following questions, your answer can be anything to do with TikTok, which of course does include everything we've already been talking about. Sam, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's start with newbie advice. If we've inspired someone to take their first step, what do they need to know to give themselves the best chance of success?
Yeah, I guess it comes back to that original question I've referenced quite a few times before. It's number one, is your audience on the platform, and is TikTok a relevant platform for you? Number two, it would be, are you going to get what you want out of the platform? So if you need to drive sales, I would stay away from TikTok right now from a paid perspective. So you want the platform to align with your overall marketing objectives. And number three, it would be, get everything set up from an organic perspective so you can utilize that content in your paid strategy.
Nice, 3 tips there for you all. Okay, now once you've started, of course, you've got to keep optimizing. So what's your favorite way to improve performance?
The way that paid social has gone, and we've seen it on Meta, is that audience targeting and granular strategies are becoming less important. On TikTok, the fundamentals are the same in terms of improving performance. You should be testing lots of different audience types, but I think that will get less and less important because that's the way the industry is going. So if you're going to improve performance, you really need to focus on the creative side of things. So you need to get a pool of creative themes. If you're launching on TikTok, you need to get as many ideas as possible, test all of them, and see what really, really works.
Nice advice there. Now, if someone wants to learn more, is there one cheap or free resource you would recommend?
I am going to do a shameless plug, and I am going to plug my own blogs that I've written recently. So number one, I've written a blog about diversifying your paid social channels. And my second blog is everything that you need to get started on TikTok.
Excellent. Are those on the Genie Goals website?
They are on the Genie Goals website.
And what's the URL for that, please?
www.geniegoals.co.uk.
Excellent. Selfish plug fully completed. Thank you very much, Sam. That was absolutely perfect. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of our listeners winging their way to those blogs to pick up those extra tips. Finally, crystal ball time. What's coming up in the next 6 to 12 months that we should be getting ready for?
I think because TikTok is so relatively new from a paid perspective, it's quite an exciting place to be. And you can see how there's so much potential there with an ever-growing audience. What we need to be focused on in the next 6 months is that push to become more e-com focused and more conversion focused. So TikTok have released, they've slightly adjusted their more conversion-led format. So you should be testing video shopping ads in your accounts, which are essentially dynamic product ads and more product-focused ads generated by your feed. You should be looking at TikTok Shop. So TikTok are, trying to get a little bit of market share from Google, from what I can see. So they're pushing TikTok Shop very heavily right now, encouraging all of our clients to set it up. TikTok Shop is really the Facebook and Instagram equivalent of shops, but it's a bit more visible in TikTok. I think it's probably more of a nice to have right now rather than essential. Our experience, what we've seen is quite a lot. It's quite difficult and time consuming to set up with not that much impact, but I think you want those best practices in place and it will just continue to grow. The next one, and slightly related to what I said there around Google, is TikTok search ads. So recently, TikTok released a search ad toggle for paid advertising. It's described as search ads. It's not quite what you'd expect. It's not Google search. Ads are still TikToks, but we're starting to see more features such as search results, the ability to add negative keywords. So it's interesting how that might evolve. So we've seen, TikTok like to push the narrative that it's not a social media platform, it's a search engine. And I think that will continue to grow. The last one, and again relate to Google, is that TikTok recently released longer video formats. So originally it was a 10-minute cap on videos and now it's 15. And again, you can see how they're trying to steal a little bit of market share from YouTube. So longer form content, keeping people on the platform for longer. So it will be interesting to see how that affects content and creative strategy.
Brilliant. Loving that, kind of like a checklist of things to watch out for. Love that. Thank you so much for pulling all that together for us, Sam. We're nearly at the end of the show, though, so could you please let the listeners know where they can find you and Genie Goals?
Yep, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find Genie Goals on LinkedIn, but our website is www.geniegoals.co.uk, and you can email us at hello@geniegoals.co.uk.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your very knowledgeable take on where TikTok ads is fitting in the greater paid social landscape at the moment. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Fascinating rundown there from Sam. I really did like his crystal ball piece. I think that is just so many things for you to keep on your radar and taking a very pragmatic approach, shall we say, to whether or not you should be testing TikTok right now. When it comes to the TikTok ads, it is all a question of budget. Should you be spending here? Should you be spending there? Where is the best place for that budget? Can you afford right now to run some of those tests? Interestingly, think of it more as top of funnel. You can get the notes on this episode and the full transcript and the links and everything at keepoptimizing.com, or use our direct to episode short link, keepopt.com/the number of the episode. Use that to go straight to the correct page. And when you get to the website, add yourself to our email list so you don't miss out on any of the other things I share to help you improve your business, including all the other TikTok content we've been putting out. A couple of months ago, we did an episode with Ben Muir from Unsociable, who gets deep into different TikTok ad strategies. So if you want the nuts and bolts, more nuts and bolts around TikTok ads, go listen to that episode. Ben was excellent in it. And if you're like, TikTok Shop, how have you missed it? Because everyone's being very noisy about it at the moment. But if you want more on TikTok Shop, our last 2 episodes in the podcast have been about TikTok Shop. We had Derek from Pipe 17 talking about the operational side of setting it up, which is not necessarily as complicated for everyone as Sam was suggesting, but I'm sure some people have been having real problems with it, just like they do with Google shopping campaigns. And then we had Caitlin from Unsociable, yes, same company as Ben, who took us through how to drive sales on TikTok Shop, which is very much about organic activity, not ad activity. And TikTok Shop is a marketplace, so you really do know if you're driving sales or not driving sales on there. So 2 brilliant episodes on TikTok Shop for you to listen to right now. Just scroll up your podcast episode feed and you will see them there. Or if you want to do the website option, go to keepopt.com/TikTok, and there you will find all our TikTok episodes, because we've done a few over the years now. And if your fellow marketers are trying to get their head around what they should or shouldn't be doing on TikTok, from ads and organic to creators and affiliates and influencers right the way through to TikTok Shop, tell them to come and listen to the podcast, because we create these episodes to give you that knowledge you can take to decide, is this in my strategy? And then if it is in your strategy, to help you make sure you're making the right progress at the right times. So please do tell them about it too. Have a great week, and make sure you listen to the next episode so I can help you to keep optimizing your marketing.
Access everything Keep Optimizing at keepoptimizing.com. That's with an S, not a Z.
Find the latest e-commerce tech at keepopt.com/tech.